Thank you so much. When I listen to this music, my faith is somehow restored. It has such an effect on me. Thank you so much, all of you, choir and Nigel, for this beautiful gift to us all. And Marty McGowan, you are up, my friend. If you could unmute yourself. Thank you.
Okay. Can you hear me? Yes, so
See?
thank you. The Potato by Jane Kenyon, 1947 to 1995, 45-year-old person. In haste one evening while making dinner, I threw away a potato that was spoiled, just on one end. The rest would have been redeemable. In the yellow garbage pail, it became a consort of coffee grounds, banana skins, carrot peelings. I pitched it onto the compost, where the steaming scraps and leaves return, like bodies over time, to the earth. When I flipped the fetid layers with hay fork to air the pile, the potato turned up, unfailingly, as if to revile me. Looking plumper, firmer, resurrected, instead of disassembled. It seemed to grow until I might have made shepherd's pie for a whole hamlet. People who passed that day, dropping trees, pumping gas, pinning hand-me-down clothes on the line.
That's it.
Yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Marty. Thank you for reading that so beautifully. I love that poem. I don't know why. Just that we throw so much away in ourselves and in others sometimes. Forget to look back and see perhaps what we've become that is worth reviving, resurrecting. Thank you so much. Please join me now for a moment of reflection and meditation. I pray now to the pulse of life, to the rhythm of nature, to the force that brings birth, seasons, love, life, longing, togetherness, and finally rest, deep, sweet rest. I pray to that which inspires us and holds the wispy edges of the storm that is life. There is always the possibility, hold us well, be the boundary of pain and love, be the place we cannot go beyond when we ache, and the place that calls us out toward eternity when we feel joy. Whisper hope in our ears, whisper the lilting, escaping, so sweet that they can almost not be heard notes of hope into our ears, and help us know that even in the face of all that is not enough, even in the face of all that is not right or just or whole, there is always the possibility of this song, always the possibility of these arms of grace to hold more life. There is always the possibility of hope. If we have the courage to bend our ears so close, and in hush whispers ask each other, have you heard it? That I love you because you are human and we walk this earth together here and now? How improbably sweet. What a love song that you and I, that we are all here sharing this moment and time together. Let there be hope. Let there be eyes and ears to know hope, to remember hope, and hands and arms to reach out and build a world in which there is enough of what is left for all of us. Let there be hope, and let it begin between us who are so blessed to be here together, to be transformed together by this sacred gathering, this sacred moment of life. Amen. It is the time in our service now for joys and concerns. We call this part of our theology, the seventh principle that reminds us that we are all connected forever and ever. and that our joys and our sorrows run between us and through us. So please, if you have a grief or gratitude, you're still muted, Nigel, for some reason. It says
There we go. Yep.
Yeah,
No,
there you go.
it's my microphone volume. This Thursday at 7 p.m., I'll be performing a online concert with our friend Molly Glazer, who I'm sure many of us know, and a friend of mine, Aidan Sherry. We'll be doing a jazz concert online as part of the Nantucket Music Center faculty series. And I'm not exactly sure how to tune in, whether it will be YouTube or Facebook, but I'm sure you can find details on the Music Center website if you'd like to. And that's Thursday at 7.
You know, Nigel, we'll put it on our e-blast so that people can find it easily.
Sure.
So happy to support you and your beautiful music.
Thank you.
All right, my dears, let's take a moment of silence. Unless have I missed somebody? We're good? All right, let's take a moment of silence together. And today we ask that, as Lucille named it so well, that this dung heap or compost heap that we are living in and through and around, that we are part of, that we remember that we have what we need all around us to become more of whatever we wish to grow in ourselves, and have more patience for what we wish to make more silent in ourselves. These are very painful times, and patience with ourselves and others, and trying to see the beauty where it is so hard to see in that dung heap. Keep looking, my dears. Keep looking. And Nigel, we're up to you, my dear.
All right, it's time for our middle hymn, May I Be Filled with Loving Kindness. And we'll sing it 3 times. The first time, May I Be Filled. The second time, May You Be Filled. And the third time, May We Be Filled.
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole.
May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May
May
we
we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
Oh my goodness, that song. I think of the choir, each in their homes, singing that by themselves without music, wishing us well. I mean, I can feel their heart in it. That wish, that prayer for wellness. Oh, bless you. Thank you so much. I was listening to a podcast from a UU minister, Reverend John Cullinan from the UU Church of Las Cruces, about the need to improvise in these times. He set the stage by talking about a scene from an impromptu improv theater he attended before COVID. So these two actors enter an empty stage, darkly lit, and after settling in, they say to the audience, shout out words about things you find in your everyday life. And all kinds, and one says car seat, and they say, okay. There's a pause, and one of the actors says to the other, you know, Trish and I have been thinking of buying a Bronco. The next actor, after listening carefully, observing details, body language, and tone of voice, says, that's a lot of car for two people. And the opening actor replies, it's going to be three of us soon. In this moment, those actors move from being entertainers on a stage to being participants in a shared story. They did not know what the story would be, but they entered what improv calls the threshold space, that kind of space where you are between stories, the ones you know and the one that hasn't been written yet. We are all in a threshold space right now. We are between stories, what was and what might become. We have been thrust in different ways and with different levels of privilege into an in-between space. In-between spaces are not typically spaces of thriving. They are places of survival, glancing back and ahead with distrust in our eyes and hearts. We batten down the hatches and retreat into obsessions that keep us from being here, because here is so damn hard. These storyless spaces are unlivable without doing something to distract or reflect or deny. And sometimes I think it is because we've got it wrong. We think the only way off of the threshold is to write the next chapter all alone, perched, prescient, permanent. We forget that this is improv space and stories can only be co-authored. Not much grows on a threshold. It is a portal from one place to another. We want to pass through it and get on with it. Written pages in hand, the ink dried and indelible. And even when we can imagine being more like our two improv actors who never met this particular audience and have no idea which words will be offered or how those words will intersect with their own lives and stories to make a new story, we enter this stage feeling unprepared, undone, and too closed in and off to make stories together. Improv is becoming known as mindfulness on its feet in therapy and acting circles. It enacts presence in such a way that it reminds us that to create something in a space that feels empty, with heads that feel too full, we have to lean in, to allow, and to stop trying to figure it all out so that we can be safe. It is time to stop seeking safety as the highest good. It is only vulnerability now that has the courage to author this next chapter without authors, without names, without an I that needs to be named. As I was writing this, my own life offered me a profound example of the conscious vulnerability as our only human armor, vulnerability as a tool of presence and peace, the vulnerability it takes to write this next part of our story together. So Nigel, Sue and I, we meet once a week in our staff meeting, and we kibitz and work so fiercely and with all of our hearts to offer all that you find here on a Sunday and to maintain and dream of new ways to hold sacred space together. We meet every week with so much on our plates that I've forgotten to ask them how I'm doing as their supervisor. Because we all create with so much voice and input, I can forget that I owe them this. So I asked them, my heart pounding out of my chest, how are you finding my communications to you in this time? Is there anything I can do differently? And the most scary of all, if you could change anything about how I work with you both, what would you change? My heart was pumping in this improv space. What if they told me really hard things to hear? Do I have the bandwidth to hear them well? And more importantly, do I have the bandwidth to change right now? In this space, before the next words came to build the next piece of our story together, I was so full of fear. And I reflected on this for some time. Why am I so ready to hear that I'm a bad person? What about this time is increasing this impulse in me? Do you feel it too? I remembered that the state of the world has always been a mirror. Not only a mirror, not the only mirror, but a mirror nonetheless. And if we see a part of ourselves, which I believe we are called to do, in this world right now, it is not of a part of ourselves that encourages self-esteem, that encourages us to race out with our vulnerability and co-create. There was a pause as Nigel and Sue both considered. I kept saying, stay quiet, Linda, don't speak, breathe. Both Sue and Nigel had only small suggestions for what I could change, things easily offered. We left this part of vulnerable space, as they needed to be vulnerable with their own words too. It's not easy to be asked, how do you think I'm doing? They had to reach in too, to their vulnerability. And we ended by me saying, if you ever feel micromanaged by me or put in a box that feels too tight, or that your input is not being respected, please tell me. It is the only way I know how to make meaning that matters, by making it together. Offering my vulnerability allowed us all to risk what is between us and to speak it. It filled the ink in our pens and opened new pages to write on. And we started co-creating a whole new vision to offer you. It was extraordinary. And the page is not new because they have never been written on before, but new because we have never written something together before. And as we explored this scary space and trusted, new ideas were born of how to create more sacred spaces for one another and our UU community. We as a team moved from a threshold toward what else might be. We wrote a piece of another story together, and these few paragraphs made a path that we could see and that we can now walk together. When we remember that vulnerability is a gift, and let me tell you, that doesn't come easily out of my mouth. It takes so much energy to be vulnerable, even as it uncovers us in places we would rather stay covered. If we step into it on purpose, with intention, with courage, a remembering that everyone else's gifts and passion and intelligence and hope and fear and longing is right beside us too, mixed all up with ours. And then we can allow what we have not known to pick up a pen. Not forever, not indelibly, just for now, until the next time comes and asks us of this all over again. Until the next time comes and beckons insistently, step onto this stage, this moment, this open chapter. Offer yourself not as a sacrifice, but as a co-creator. Open yourself and ask for something that you do not know the answer to, and let it create the next words. It feels like running straight into a winter ocean without a wetsuit, but like the rush of a cold wave that jostles and buoys and shocks us into our own skin, the possibility that opens is so refreshing and restorative. In this political and COVID landscape, none of us have a sense of control, which we are all responding to in ways that only create more confusion, fear, and consequence. Something in our control is offering our vulnerability on purpose as the artist, the co-creator, the story builder, the muse. There is this threshold time that offers the words, here we are together, your heart and my heart, your words and my words, and all of us wanting more than our best and worst to fill the pages of what is next. Use this honesty and this presence to hear, to listen for how the story wants to be shaped and what our part of it is. If we can just show up here and now with our untidy, untucked stories and wisdom hanging out all over the place. When we can step into what is next, surrounded by the courage that has been, a remembering that we will get what is next wrong often, and we will have to edit it together right on the threshold of uncertainty. We can combine all of what is good enough about us with all of what is good enough about another, when each other must mean more of us now than it ever has. COVID and these political times have shined a light onto all the dark places, and we see ourselves and one another now, and how our actions or silence affect one another too. And that is painful and causing despair and withdrawal, but it need not only offer us this. We can use this vulnerability as a superpower, as wings and cape and ability to see into our stories and the stories of others with a new X-ray vision. No pretending can hide the truth from the superpower of vulnerability. That's a big car for only 2 people. It's going to be 3 of us soon. Let the next words fall from the meaning that is in and between us. If we can wait to allow the next words to come from inside of where we are and who we are, then maybe the idea of writing a new story together and exposing our unreadiness, our messiness, our extra pounds of COVID baggage hanging out all over the place can be a new invitation to live into something we have not had the courage to live into before. There is not much else to do right now except become and willingly enter into something that we do not understand, that we cannot see the end of, and that we cannot write alone. We are the next story, each of us in different and equal ways. If we decide that the next story cannot be written by our pen alone, then we don't have to do everything. We don't have to tell the whole next story. We don't even need to write the whole next paragraph. We just have to show up and let people see us, in fact, see right through us. It's going to be 3 of us soon. There's no hiding now, no pretending that no one knows that we watch too much TV and feed ourselves in ways that do not serve us or the planet, and order too much that is not really needed on Amazon, even while we know that Amazon workers feel they are entering a war zone without armor when they go to work. I know, it hurts. All of our paradoxes and contradictions, hiding used to be easier than showing up in the truth. Hiding used to be easier than showing up in the truth, but there's nowhere left to hide. The covers are tattered now. Time to learn to be who we are so that we can learn how to be who we have not yet been before. It sounds super exhausting, and it is, because we don't know this way, but it is not as exhausting as the alternative, which is what we are living right now. We could sit quiet. We could try to mend the tattered cover up. And trust me, I succumb to this need to pull those covers over me more than I should. But then I remember, I did not come into this world to stay under the covers, and neither have you. You came here to give something to one another, to this world. We came here to make a difference. I know that because you're all here in this Unitarian Universalism that called us here because we belong to the people who are not satisfied with staying under the covers. Mindfulness on our feet reminds us that we are only one incomplete voice that does not know what is next unless we jump into that next together. Put down your halo, your armor, your hero's cape. They are distractions. Have faith that we can offer a text that will open minds, hearts, and doors, that will increase the measure of love and justice in this world, that will give our vulnerability a good ride and drop us safely home. Not the same person as before this time, and not with the safety that we are used to expecting. That loss needs grieving and then embracing as the muse that will offer us the next words, the next moment, the next page to fill. It's going to be 3 of us soon, and if we allow it, if we consciously step into it, it will be many more than 3. I see you. I love you. I see you, and I know that we can do this together if we can see ourselves in one another and in the world and pick up the next words by listening, hearing, remembering, imagining, and most importantly, all my dear friends, doing the work that is right before us. And doing it on this dimly lit stage that each of us has built, seeking the words that can only come from the heart that belongs to each of our gorgeous, vulnerable human selves. Amen. Please join me now for a moment of silence. It is the time in our service where you know the drill. We ask for your generosity of heart and spirit, and also for your help financially, because all of that is needed, isn't it? All of it is needed for us to stay here together in this beautiful sacred space. You know, it's ministers talk about how hard it is to ask for money because it feels dirty, you know, it feels unsacred, it feels unholy, it feels like almost ugly space. And I want to change that. It's just part of what it takes to create beauty. So I ask you to use and give what you can to create this beauty together. Thank you always for who you are.
So, to do, and I'll put in the chat in just a minute, the website link as well as the PO box if you would prefer to do, a check. But if you would like to do it online, sorry, my mouse isn't working. You can click the contribute button as well. Just a reminder, right up at the top, it says receive updates. So if you are not getting the church email each week, you can sign up for that. When you click contribute, or if you clicked the text to give, it'll take you to Tithely. You can type in the amount, what exactly you're giving it for, and you can choose if it's a recurring gift or not. And when you scroll down, try and make sure that you click cover fees, so that the credit card fees can get covered. And with that, I will send it to Nigel.
And for the musical offering today, I'm going to play a short little tune by Peter Ilyich Tchaikovsky called An Old French Song. And for our final hymn, we will sing congregational favorite, number 1064, Blue Boat Home.
Below me I feel the motion, standing on these mountains and plains, far away from the rolling ocean. Still my dry heart can say, I've been sailing all my life now. Never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home. Sun, my sail, and moon, my rudder, as I ply the starry sea, leaning over the edge in wonder, casting questions into the deep, drifting here with my ship's companions, all we kindred pilgrim souls, making our way by the lights of the heavens in a beautiful blue boat home. I give thanks to the waves upholding me, hail the great winds urging me on, greet the infinite sea before me, sing the sky my sailor's song. I was born upon the fathoms, never harbor or port have I known. The wide universe is the ocean I travel, and the earth is my blue boat home.
I love that song. I see Jerry Mack is with us, and I've thought, Jerry, this blessing comes from something you taught me. One time we were sitting together and I was asking you about conducting a choir, and is it just the same music, and you just conduct the music that you know, and you said, oh no, Linda. I think of the strengths and the personalities and the voices of everyone, and I imagine how I can make this music for them. And I've learned so much from you. Thank you for the wisdom of remembering that all voices must be heard, and that to hear them well, we have to listen more deeply. And also that there's our voices, our gifts, our artistry, there's room for all of it. And if we can leave space for it, we can still create something so beautiful. Thank you. Nigel, it's the chalice. Dang it all. I wondered why you weren't coming in. All right, my dears. The chalice, the words are carry the flame of peace and love until we meet again. If you could all unmute yourselves and join Gary in a big chorus. Thank you.
Carry the flame.
Carry the
flame,
flame,
peace and
peace
love.
and love,
We meet again.
till we
Again.
And for the postlude today, I'll play a piece that I wrote a little less than a year ago. The reason I wrote this song was because I was struggling one weekend to come up with something to play for service, and couldn't find anything I liked. So I decided to try and write something, and it was one of those few times where it got done in about a half an hour. And it's actually a pretty decent tune. I find myself playing it sometimes. So I'll play it for you again today. It's called The New Rock.
Thank you, Nigel. How extraordinary you can write something like that in half an hour. I'm so jealous. And yet I don't have to be, right? Because we're here together in this sacred space and you share yourself so willingly.
Well, I guess the thing that pops into my head about that is I can write something in half an hour, but it doesn't happen very often. You write something every week. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Nigel. Thank you so much. Well, my dears, thank you for co-creating this sacred space. No way it happens. It's totally your fault that I've been crying half this. No way it happens without each other. Just no way. Even it's Zoom. I was telling a friend, even though it's Zoom, I feel you here with me. I feel us all together. It's such a beautiful honor and privilege. And what you can all unmute yourselves and just say hello and